Cool.
So I'm so excited to start this new episode of Frequency Leaders Podcast. And today's episode is going to be a very special guest that I'm about to have on. But before we get into our guest and interview them, I really want to thank you for listening to this podcast, taking all the value that you can from it, and supporting our mission for creating new stewards of wealth, diverse faces of wealth on the planet, so that we can rise up together and truly unlock our ultimate life's purpose and financial success while feeling fulfilled along the process and having a life first business philosophy that feeds our family, that feeds our vitality, that also feeds our fun, doing things that we love to do, not the other way around. So without any further ado, so happy that we got to secure our guest today, and her name is Kate Hancock. And Kate Hancock is dubbed the trailblazer of tech by Forbes magazine. She's also a self-made entrepreneur and has excelled across a lot of industries, including e-commerce, hospitality, real estate, and beauty. And she's also just had a $20 million investment that she grew her first venture into rather, correction. She started with a $20 investment. Okay, big difference. And she grew her first venture into $1 million business, achieving 8 figures in online sales and recognized as an expert in Web 3.0. And Kate is honored as one of the top 100 women of the future and serves as a Harvard Business School Web3 speaker. And she also has been awarded the Presidential Lifetime Achievement Award by President Joe Biden for her work impacting the community and as the founder of the Global AI Consultant. And her influence also has extended globally, making her a sought after keynote speaker at events such as American Express Business for TEDx. Kate also hosts CNN Philippines, contributes to Entrepreneur Magazine, and she's also a master community builder, as I also can confirm that, and bringing together over 124,000 entrepreneurs worldwide. So we're so excited to have Kate, and I know she's such an unwavering female inspiration to many women who also are ready to rise up. And our communities are also, I would say, about 65 to 70% women who are trailblazers, leaders, path blazers, people who want to have a family, have it all, have the success, and really just be laughing all the way to the bank. So, thank you so much, Kate, for coming on today. We want to keep this raw, we want to keep this real. Um, and we also want to just kind of tell people about who you are and how you do what you do, and add some value to the communities who will be listening today. But I guess the first question that we get can give people context about like how we met is Kate and I. Well, I remember I was in my apartment complex back in 2020 when COVID hit, and obviously, as you guys know, the world shut down, and a lot of us were like, "Okay, this is stupid, and this is like fake," but in the moment, it was real, right? Because you saw a lot of news showing just captures of people getting into the hospital and getting like sick. And so that was a very real fear that we all felt. So in that kind of phase of pivoting, let's just say, or innovating, there's a lot of lessons that I learned. And I would love to also ask you about how you've unfolded over the last 5 years as a person and as a business owner. But it was really funny how we met because Kate and her partner Daniel Robbins, they started this clubhouse. I'm sure maybe many of you may not know that app that used to be really big, almost like went semi-viral for a year or so. And that was just our way to kind of sit around the campfire and just figure out like what's going on and how do we proceed from here. But it was a super high value, authentic, almost breaking of the mask, meaning like the level of isolation that we all felt as entrepreneurs and was able to have this kind of non judgment because let's be real, like you couldn't actually see other people's faces, right? And so you had to really connect to the vocal tonality of people, which is why I really liked it because you didn't have to get dressed or get ready to go onto the platform. You could literally just be sitting. I remember just sitting in my couch or on my bed, just kind of hearing people talk and getting my chance to speak. But without any further ado, welcome to the podcast, Kate. We're so grateful that you were able to carve out time to speak.
Wow. Well, thank you. So honored to be here. And it's been great seeing you. It's been a while.
It's been a long time, yay. But we've
Yes.
we've kept in touch, every once in a while. And I'm just curious to know more about your current happenings and what you're most excited about today. But before we get into that, would love to kind of give people a little bit of context as to, like really the higher principles as to what drives your decision making when it comes to starting a business or being involved in other projects. Kind of want to understand like the origin story, and you don't have to go into like the long version, but would love to give people a little bit more clarity on like how you came into this
Yeah,
entrepreneurship game.
well, I think since I was young, I was always super driven and ambitious and overly gutsy. Sometimes my mother would say, like, why are you so gutsy? Or why do you have to curate these events at school, even in middle school? Like, I have to put together community events and things. I just like it. I think for me, it's just easy to be a leader and lead people. So I really love being in a community. But for me, my driving force for me to be an entrepreneur is I really wanted to have freedom. I didn't grow up pretty much having connections or money, so it's really driven by that. I started super early working in a bakery at my aunt's business. And I didn't really have much time to be a kid and explore what other kids do. So I have to say, I have a lot of resentment that I couldn't go out and have fun with my friends because I have to work. I have to work in a bakery or do some kind of chores, and it was very strict. So I promised myself this is not going to be my life. I wanting to have my freedom whenever I feel like it. And that was the driving force for me that I don't want to be someone else under someone else. I'm going to be a worker or someone else. Yes, I understand. I have to be employed in the beginning to start, but my end goal is really having the freedom to do whatever I want to do when I want to do it. And that
And
was the
yeah.
start of it. And I was really driven. I got to figure it out, whatever that may be. At first, I was even trying to replicate a business in the US. Like I was trying to make pastries, it didn't work. And I tried to do these other things. And I got lucky doing e-commerce, selling beauty product, doing product arbitrage, selling clearance items at Costco, selling on Amazon. Started with $20, sold a few items that day, scale it to 500,000 in 6 months and 1 million after a year. So me packing and shipping it in the garage is kind of wild. That's how I started.
In the garage, dang. Okay, sounds like a female version of Steve Jobs here. Shit.
That's how I started. And, I sold over 8 figures for a few years, that run for about 10 years. And I opened a brick and mortar store. And of course, COVID hit. That really changed the landscape. I don't want to be ties into, a retail store. That's too much to handle. And so that really changed my perspective. I cannot be in one place after COVID. And so that really kind of shifted away. Dan and I were kind of living a nomadic lifestyle now, which is I love.
Yeah, and would love to know more about that. What have you been up to this year, just in terms of like traveling when it comes to moving things around, staying online? How's that been for you?
It's been great. Sometimes I kind of miss community of my friends in the US, but Dan and I run boutique hotels in Asia, in the Philippines. So we've had it for the last 7 years. It's and our staff been running it for 4 years, and so we've decided, hey, it's time for us to visit our team and scale that way. So we're actually start building our third location in the Philippines, and that's why we're in and out in the US, building our third boutique hotel. We've done retreats in the past. We've had 30 CEOs flown into that small island. It's been fun. And I really love of all the things, I really love giving a great experience to my guests. I think I love decorating. I love building. I love getting like no idea what to do and just putting it together. And that's how I even built a hotel. It wasn't a hotel, it was an Airbnb and scale it to a boutique hotel. And this year we're honored to get that TripAdvisor Travel Excellence Awards to our property. So I'm very proud of that and because of the team.
Wow. I mean, when you say team, I love what you said about you loving to kind of embody that homemaker interior master of giving people this real experience. This is something that we also love to focus on here when it just comes to like client experience. Uh, something that I really did learn from you also wasn't just, when people purchase or they buy the service or product, it's not just about like blowing their mind when they are there or after they have kind of bought. But I use that same philosophy when it comes to branding, meaning like what's the experience that people get
Yeah.
when they're engaging on the front end, like before the transaction, giving people a smooth experience of let's just say an awakening, good feeling experience, but also honest experience about the context or the relationship that we're wanting to see if there's a possibility of building, a partnership. I love that philosophy that you have about focusing on client experience because like that's really what people remember. Like no one wants to wait to have this epic experience when they like after they buy necessarily. Like I love to have an experience before I buy too.
Absolutely. Well, with so many options now, it's becoming so competitive, right? So
Oh
what
God.
hard. Like that has to stick with your branding and your storytelling and everything around. Like, why would they pick you over someone else, especially in a hotel business when it gets very competitive? Maybe your competitor get gazillion dollars of budget where they can curate this beautiful place, but at the end of the day, the genuine hospitality wins over a nice building. It's that experience before you buy, when you're there, and the after experience that really matters. And that's how you build loyalty. And I'm so proud my team can capture that. Yes, it takes a lot of refinement, but when you have that basis of you truly care about your client or guest, then even if you messed up, we can't execute it perfectly, but because they feel that genuine hospitality and warmth, that's your secret sauce. That's it.
Uh-huh. And I'm curious to know more about because my audience tends to be coaches, consultants, health experts, um, thought leaders, right? Who are creators of courses or retreats, right? And I would just kind of love to understand your like what has been really something that you have seen work for your business and your clients as well. When it comes to the scalability of an offer, and what I mean by that is like what would you say to somebody who's maybe at, let's just say they're obviously full time, they're experienced, they're not like novices, they're not newbies. What would you say to someone who is between, I would say 10 to 30K a month, or maybe they've hit a few 50, 100K months, and they're looking to get more leverage, delegation, and systems. What would you say to someone like that? Like, would you recommend them to figure stuff out by themselves, work with somebody? What was an experience that you had that really surprised you about like how business really scales? Because you can't just you can only be a solopreneur for so long until things start your delivery starts cracking in half. Because
Yes.
you only have 24 hours in a day,
Yes, and I have to say I made that
obviously.
mistake, right? You can only, go as far as your hand can reach, and you can never build a billion dollar, $1 million company with just you and a few staff, right? So it's hard not to have that control freak in us,
Ah,
right? Like that's the death. It's really hard to let go of that self-control, but if you think of it, like you really need to have a team to scale and you're limited. You're limiting yourself and your profit and your growth if you want to control everything. So if your team can do 80% of the work, that's already great, right? So rather than you doing all, but you have a team of six times 80%, that's way better than you doing all the work. So with all the tools now, you can utilize, leverage, definitely a lot of help. You can use AI agent. You
mm,
want to save virtual assistants if that doesn't work. There's so many tools you can utilize to simplify or be more lean to your expenses. There's a lot of tools that you can do now rather than having a lot of team with the rise of AI. So definitely you can um, maximize that, but definitely hire people, find partnership that you're not good at. I'm very surprised at Dan's business model. He's in the PR and
mm,
media world, and majority of his actually revenue coming from joint ventures. So be open to find the right partner that shares the same value as you. And that's how he scaled because he's open to split the profit with someone else that he trusts. And if you're selling high ticketed items, and if you're the only one offering it, if you could partners it with other people, less work for you, more profit, why would you not do that? So it's really of like opening that mindset of, hey, it's okay to not be in control or having even that shared profit to someone else. It's okay because sometimes, Theo, it can be cultural or where, how you
yo,
pay.
this is huge. Keep going with this. Yeah,
Yes,
this
that
is
the
huge. Yeah,
cultural.
I've
Yeah,
never heard
because
it. I never heard it communicated that way.
yes, because I have to say I struggle with that one.
Me
Growing up,
too.
yeah, it's so hard. Like
Yeah,
I gotta
traditional
do. I
Asians, we
have
tend to be
to.
very
Yes,
rigid.
I have to own the profit 100%. But guess what? Those people that made so much money, they're okay of splitting it to the other person that contributed as much. And look, they're rich because they're open to that mindset. But look, it's so hard. I think for me, it's often a struggle for me. Like I gotta do it. I have to own it 100%. And I'm really inspired looking at my husband's business models. Like, wow, you're okay with that? I guess I have to practice it. But it can be like again, it has something to do with how you're raised and culturally is a big factor
Mm,
that joint venture partnership and you can slowly test the market because it's very hard if you're not into it, right? You gotta slowly, you know what, it's okay. And even sometimes it's done like, do I really have to split the profit with this person? It's like, guess what? You'll never have that opportunity without the person's connection. So just be okay with it. Even if sometimes you feel like you do all the work, but the fact that you get a connection from the other person and it's okay. So you don't have to win all the time in all deals. It's
mm.
okay to be willing to share it to someone else. So that is something hard and it really needs practice, I have to say.
Yeah, yeah. I hear you. For you, when it comes to, like you were saying, talking about delegation and finding the right people, did you just learn that from trial and error, or like the way that I see it, that I've learned is obviously through mistakes, but there's always people constantly reaching out to us, like, on Instagram, oh, I'll boost your following, or like I'll get you more sales opportunities. And, I found the best team or opportunities to co-create in business has just honestly come from like either directly speaking with someone or my network. So what's that experience been like? Did you just kind of learn how to do that, or did you kind of fail at that? Like, I want to understand like the how what, like kind of the lessons that you would say to someone so that maybe they could avoid some of the mistakes that you may have made.
Yeah, well, you kind of talk about a very difficult thing to measure, like following, build your following, or boosting your following, or closing the sale. That's very hard. Like it's so hard to find the right person to really capture your audience to
Mm,
convert that. That's very
hmm.
difficult. But when it comes to the team that can do the menial work, or for example, my business in Asia, it's very standard because I need a front desk and manager, but I've been running it remotely. I have to say I have a gift of finding the right person, of like hiring them, and they've run the company for 7 years. I'm not even there, so
Wow.
which I think it's actually better than I'm not controlling every single de detail. I let them flourish and be creative. But sometimes I think like, I wonder what it would be like if I'm there all the time. But I kind of like it w where they just do their own thing as long as everything is within our scope, culture is there, customers happy. It can't be a perfect execution all the time, but if they deliver what we promise, how did they execute it? Sometimes it's not right, but we can never have it perfectly. But again, if 80% of the team deliver, then you should be very happy rather than you taking your time,
Yeah.
you being hands-on, and then I can't travel. So I have to say delegation is key.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I definitely agree with that, like the 80% rule. But when it comes to like the how do you say the relationship between process versus the person, um, I've heard different people say, like Dan Martell, he said different things, but essentially, everyone has their own unique spin on like, okay, is this a process issue, or is this a person and like you said, culture issue, or is it just that they you may not know how to like you've never been exposed to how to integrate AI into that and maybe use or not use, that's not the right word, but kind of teach your team how to leverage AI. Like that's what I would love to know about.
Yeah, I think sometimes as entrepreneur, we bitch about our team, like, why can you not execute this, right? But without looking under the hood, like, hey, maybe it's our fault not really giving them the right SOP or not giving them the right training.
100%.
We just complain about why are you not seeing what I'm seeing? But did you really give them the right proper instruction of how to execute this business? Like they cannot read your mind unless you have a complete blueprint. But majority of those processes and communication and staff breakdown, some of it is coming from us entrepreneur because we did not create a great SLP. So how can
Uh-huh.
they execute it fully if they don't have the right blueprint to follow? Right?
Mm,
We just
yeah.
assume sometimes, yes, we expect people to figure things out, but sometimes the downfall is coming from us. Maybe we're hesitant to even give everything. We didn't know. Sometimes in the back of our head, do I really want to give it all, like what I know, or I'm scared she's gonna steal my idea and give it to someone else. But like, no, you got to be okay to let it go. Sometimes it is really a mindset issue and lacking education of our team, and sometimes that's why they can't function the task, or unless there's really something wrong with them, then you have to make that decision. This isn't the right fit.
Yeah. That makes sense. Okay. And just to kind of go deeper on you, like I would love to know more about and I'm trying to frame the question the right way. Is like what has been your relationship with things like energy work or spirituality, and how has that kind of influenced you, okay, as a founder and as a CEO? Or have you pursued that, right? And then I have another question that is gonna kind of lead to the next question, but what if you because you're very well traveled like myself, but and you've been many places in the world, but like, what has been that unfolding, right? That kind of self-discovery for you?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I think for me, we're talking about spirituality. I have to say, 2021, I did a journey of plant medicine, and that really changed the way how I see myself
Ah,
and my life and where I'm going. So it's been a blessing. I'm a big fan. It definitely opened up a lot of things that I'm holding back. And, uh, sometimes that control freak of inside of us, you just
yeah, yeah,
probably
yeah.
talk to plant
You
medicine
don't
and
have to explain that to me, okay? Yeah, you and I
yes,
both know. We're from both from Asia, so we know.
yes.
We
So,
need to control everything.
yes, we have to control everything. So that really changed the way how, wanting to live my life. I tend to kind of do a little bit of countdown. It's crazy. I'm not obsessed with it, but I definitely kind of look at, okay, all my grandparents died in their 70s, so
Hmm.
probably halfway of my life. So I want to live the rest of my life doing what I want to do when I want to do travel. I don't want to have to report to someone else. So for me, traveling just gave me that creativity and exploration. I just love exploring new places and I can get creative. And it's like, oh, I like this design. I really like this, something new. It just fill up my soul. And the other day I told Dan, like, people say I live to it. I travel to live. So I just love that. I get antsy if I'm in one place for 90 days. I have to go somewhere. So for me, it's just part of getting a reset and be creative. And then I want to do something else. I want to do more because I want to explore more.
And what do you mean by do more? Is it explore more of your passions, or is it like meaning lifestyle, or is it more about building more? Because you've already built a lot of things.
Yeah,
Uh,
I think sometimes you get bored. You want to have some new ideas and how can you be more creative? Like for
mm.
me, I love design. I love to decorate places. So I love France, out of France, like seeing architecture. So I need to have that, inspiration. So I love to just go places. And sometimes I just like to be surprised in one place. Sometimes, when you go to a country where you have
Mm.
zero expectations, like, oh my God, this is great. And so that's what I mean by that. Like I get more creative and then I get excited to do more or whatever. Like sometimes you can just work all the time. You shouldn't work all the time. You need to do fun things, or I like to blend in work and fun and travel at the same time.
That's right aligned. That's aligned with how I feel about life in general too. And what is the number one piece of advice that you would give to somebody who wants to get ahead in this world of AI, and how does that connect to society as a whole? Let's talk about the impact of the world and what role like business owners can possibly have. Like where do you see obviously there's opportunities everywhere, but where do you see the AI kind of shining a light on the future, and what are maybe some of the positive benefits that could happen that you just are thinking about? But what are some of maybe the consequences if people don't adapt, innovate, because of this kind of new evolution and how we interact, because let's be real, social media plays a huge role in everyone's life in all the different contexts of life.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for me, AI, I mean, we all use ChatGPT and it helps us craft and it helps us build our businesses. What I'm very excited about AI is definitely more in the health space where they can detect cancer ahead of time. I think people really crave for we all wanting longevity. I myself wanting to learn about everything about myself. Like, how can I get better with my carpal tunnel? Because I type and work all the time. Like, there's
Oh
some, like,
shit.
I want to know everything, right? I want to know everything. So I think with that, I'm very excited what the technology is doing in that department. What I'm really worried is it seems like AI in a global scale, it's who has the money will win, and these people that don't have a lot of funding or countries, a lot of countries will be left behind. And I think there's really going to be a lopsided of who can really dominate and be able to utilize with the technology. And that's one thing that I'm really afraid of. And that's the reason why I created the nonprofit Global AI Council, where we provide free education globally. And so we have chapters in the Philippines, in Nigeria, because I think the only way we can win is to get people educated. At least then you know how you're going to position yourself to thrive in this whole new world. So I'm really worried about AI of where it's going, but I'm really excited about knowing, predicting diseases and solving, you know, cancer or something like complicated health issues that used to be very difficult or takes time to analyze. So I'm excited with that side, but who's gonna win? I'm not so sure if everyone can win.
Yeah, and yeah, I've heard that, AI, it can get to a point where it starts to generate its own thought, like its own intuition or its own decision of what it thinks is appropriate. And it's almost like AI has a consciousness that we discovered. And maybe AI, and this is just throwing this out there, that maybe sometimes AI may think that we as humans are very kind of incompetent when it comes to using common sense. Or even I heard some lady on social media saying, oh, if you are very rude with AI and demanding, it will give you different answers than if you have manners. And I was like, that is are we training AI or is AI training us?
Who
Okay,
knows?
like
Who can give us that answer?
I don't even know what the right answer is. I don't have that answer. But it is a very interesting perspective to consider that if everything is energy and consciousness, then it's almost as if AI has always existed. It's just that we became smart enough to discover its existence.
Yeah, yeah, very
That's
fascinating.
crazy.
Yeah.
And let me ask you a question. For you, how big of a role has speaking, because I've never known you outside of you already being a very elite world-class speaker in many ways and shapes and forms. And I can tell you have a lot of fun at like sharing your message with people. Has that always been uh, a natural knack for you? Because
Oh, not at all. Not at all. I have to say, Clubhouse helps me a lot. I mean,
it
Theo,
helped
you
you.
no idea. I was panicking just even opening my mic on Clubhouse. So that definitely overthinking. And I
Yeah,
think it really helps having a coach of like really, at the end of the day, it's all changing your mindset and having the right coach. And when you're prepared, then you're okay with it. And I think the idea of like, hey, it can't be perfect, but it's you, then it's not really a big pressure. It's not a big like you shouldn't be hard on yourself. You know what I mean? So if you're storytelling about your story, so you're the only one knows about your story, so who cares, right? But I think
right.
for me, I definitely prepare because I don't want to be blank out there, even though sometimes that will happen. I remember my TEDx, my very first one, like with all, I wasn't expecting all the lights, and it was so bright that I
Yeah,
totally blacked out. It took me a while, like, and then I went in. But eh, nothing is really perfect. But at the end of the day, you can edit things, and that means you're just being human because you may, you rumble or whatever. So I think having that perfectionist mindset, I think you just let it go. No one knows. Only you
right.
knows.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's crazy, right? Like that's we talk a lot about how we think we know how people are judging us, and then we realize we can't control how they're judging us anyways, but we still think we
Yeah.
can. It's really
Yeah.
weird. Think of it this way, right? Like, have you ever considered that we don't like to be controlled? Like we dislike getting our autonomy taken away from us.
Yeah.
But at the same time, in the context of you learning how to do something that is important to your business or whatever area of life you want to grow in, you also want to be told exactly what to do. So we have this very strange condition. Like, could you speak into that? How
Yeah.
speaking
I
of
think
like need to control, but then
yeah,
you also like to be kind of led in a step by step direction.
yeah, I think when it comes to like speaking or performing, at the end of the day, speaking is really a production. It's you're there performing, right? I mean, I think for me, I will only do things that makes me happy or that aligns with me. I don't want to do a project where I have to follow every single goddamn instruction from someone else. So if it feels good to me, then I'll do it. But I don't want to put myself in a situation where this is, these are the expectation and you have to do this XYZ. It has to
Mm,
come from me naturally that, okay, I feel comfortable with that. Then, it's not too much pressure on myself because I made the decision that that's what I wanted to deliver. So whether you like
mm,
it or not, it's fine by me. But at the end of the day, when it comes to speaking, you can't really have a perfect talk from beginning to end. But if there it's one nugget that your audience can take away from you, then you're doing your job.
Yeah. And for you, when it comes to doing your job, what do you feel is the best way that you can like understand how you best serve in your way? What I mean by that is what are the specializations that you've come to know about yourself outside of community building and funding? And like, what would you say would be those main skills for you? Because you've generated a lot of success online and in different places of the world. You've been recognized by a lot of people. So
Thank
there's got to be some kind of secret. And what I mean by secret is a some sort of skill that like what's a skill that you feel that people overlook when it
you.
comes to making your business grow without pushing? Because I feel like we're getting out of this old paradigm of you have to force things and you have to hustle. It's like
Yeah.
I there's a place and a time for hustling. If you're in a desperate situation, you better get your ass to work. But there's a higher paradigm, like you were talking about, of the almost like in a surrender experience, where as if you double down on the place that got you to here, there's no freaking way you're gonna get there. So,
Yeah. I think for me is heavily on self-awareness of really knowing yourself from inside out,
mm,
embracing that if you're very comfortable with that. And really, I think for me the superpower is knowing people. I can connect with people really well that I know they're the same energy of me or someone that I really admire. I know how to cultivate the relationship. And it's not in a
no.
manipulation way, but it just I just know to build nurture the relationship where even though they're higher up there, right? And sometimes I feel like this imposter syndrome. Why is this guy or why is this X person is a very good friend of mine, and they're like in a level where I don't know anyone at that level, like
Mm,
when it comes to wealth, but you somehow connected in a way beyond, friendship. It was or beyond like it's just like you guys click. It's just that you guys just communicate in the same wavelength. And that I think is a lot of self-awareness and a lot of work, personal development really help. And knowing how, timing of reading people and cultivating the relationship, I think it helps me a lot. I tend to really I can read a lot of people, and it can be a blessing and a curse because sometimes maybe my reading is wrong, right? Like
mm,
even my healer would tell me, like, don't read too much because sometimes that's not be right. It's like, you know what? Maybe I shouldn't put into that in a lot of ways. But if I feel the energy is really bad, I don't really do business with the person or continue having the conversation because I just don't feel very good. So I'm very
Mm.
sensitive other people's energy. And sometimes Dan, my husband, is like, "Hey, what do you feel of that person?" Just listening to the conversation, I know that what kind of future headaches that you have to deal with, just the way how to communicate. I would just analyze it. It's like, I don't think this is gonna work because this X, Y, Z. I don't think it's gonna be complicated. I think it's gonna be complicated. So just be mindful with that. So I'm very careful I mean, people who I allowed to be in my world.
Time, yeah, time.
Because it suck out your energy. If you're dealing a lot of drama, then that stops you from being creative. You can't scale when you're bothered by
Uh,
even a simple friendship. So I'm very protective of my friends, even.
yeah,
I-
yeah.
Even your family, how you navigate complexities. Like sometimes you just really need to learn to let it go and not taking it too seriously at times.
Yeah, yeah, and I like to say like don't you're not cutting people off, you're cutting a state an emotional state off. So they can decide to transform and align energy with you, or if they continue to choose to be in such a way that causes you to have some sort of response, like in a heavy, I just say, is it light or heavy? And if it's heavy, um, either you just have to limit that time or you
Mhm.
just have to kind of be real and be like, okay, well, I will help you. But if you're not my close friend or family, you got to pay me because this is like at some point that's just going to pull you down.
Yeah.
And then you're like pissed off, but then you realize like you let that happen, like, and
Yeah.
that used to happen to me. I'm like, oh, I allowed that in. Like I
Mhm.
allowed myself to not have that clear boundary because I was too focused on prioritizing other people's opinions of me, right?
Mhm.
Instead of like me feeling into the situation and just seeing, okay, where's the win-win? Where's the collaboration? If there's not, if they don't want what's best for me, then how are they going to support me? Like how are they going to be there for me even if things are bad? Wouldn't you like have you ever had those experiences in your life where people were almost like a fair weather friend or someone who were maybe a little bit intimidated by you? Have you lost friends from becoming successful? I think this is a fear that a lot of my community and listeners deal with unconsciously.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think it's very normal though. Like for me, I don't think I have any high school friends that I still talk to. Yeah, like and talk,
Mm-hmm.
but like you're when you're up there and you're growing, you don't expect people to. I mean, it's going to be a very difficult conversation for you for them to even understand you, and you have to be okay with you go through it's like skin shred of different friends. You have set of friends in your 20s and 30s and 40s and 50s, and you should be okay with that and
Mm.
find that good quality. And to be quality of friendship is the key. I have to say majority of my friends are way older than me and Dan, and but then now I'm more like, oh my God, what if our friends are all gonna be dead because they're
Dead.
30 old? So we need to slowly have younger friends. And so sometimes you're just an old soul. You tend to gear toward mature friends because then it's less drama because you're so overly protective of your energy. I, I think, it's something that we all have to learn to be okay. You can't be friends at everyone because not everyone can be happy with your success, and that's okay. And you should be okay with that.
What's it? Yeah, yeah. Well, and that's something that I want to know. Would love to know from you is because I in my experience I've also seen benefits of befriending people who have more wisdom and experience than me, who are kind of further and down the highway than I am. There's benefits to that, and like you said, there's downsides to that because like they could just keel over one day. And I've had people pass away, even at a younger age, under 40. Crazy how much we take for granted these
Yeah.
days. But then I
Yeah.
also have seen friends of mine, and I've had this myself. where they actually consciously in their 40s, right? They're in their 40s, they're crushing it, they're at the peak of their career. And they're surrounding themselves with a team that's like in their late 20s. And they say to me, they say, Theo, like, I love being around that hungry ambition of people just like these young guys. They have vision, they have energy. And so when you're older, like that is such a gift because they remind you of that spark and that fire that you had when you were older 20s or younger 30s. Would you agree, or do you see the value in that?
Absolutely. I mean, it's very different when you have friends that's, I mean, when it comes to friendship, I think I categorize it very differently. But when
Hmm.
it comes to part of your team, then you want to have way more diverse because you want to have those young, the Gen Z. I want to learn their world.
Yes.
I need to have, I don't know what they are your future customers. So you need to understand how they think, what they
Right.
think, right? You know, it's always good to have that. But I think for me, if I want to hang out having a glass of wine, I wanted to just chill with people that's kind of the same wavelength as I am for the most part, but I'm open to have friendship that are totally different from me because I want to learn like, oh my God, I see that myself. I used to not like this kind of angle, but then I guess it's okay because sometimes, when you're kind of hard-headed, you only wanted everything to be your way, but it's okay to hear other people's ways and wants. Like, for example, even traveling. You know how some of your friends are really like organized travelers. I'm not an organized traveler. I just kind of no plan. I just go. I like this place. I'll stay longer. But some of your friends wanting everything by the minute and details, like, hey, you know what?
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
your
yeah.
way. You go do what you wanted to do. Well, let's meet in the middle. But I cannot follow your itineraries. It's too jam packed. I don't like
Yeah.
that. So you say I'd be okay with that, but we'll meet at dinner or something and have a drink. But I cannot
Mm.
embrace that because that's not how I travel, and you should be okay with that.
Right, right. So basically, essentially, what you're saying is like you like to have plans, but you don't want to be so trapped without that flexibility in
Yeah.
you know, your ideas. Oh, we should do this. Oh, hey, this looks fun. We should do that. Let me ask you. So, in your relationship with Daniel, um, what are your guys's like? How do you complement each other? I think people want to know this because there are, many complicated, complex dynamics that take place with two people who are entrepreneurs. I've had that in my past relationships where, and can sometimes get to this unhealthy dynamic where there's almost like a power struggle.
Yeah.
And then I've also seen it to where I've had friends who had a partner who was not an entrepreneur, and as beautiful as traditional as that is, they would come home and they'd be like, "Oh, how was work, honey?" And she's like, "Oh, it was good." And then like, there's nothing after that because the partner, let's say the partner, I'm not being like misogynistic here, but the partner, let's say she's a woman and she's just chilling at home, she can't relate with with the dragons that he's slaying, for
Mhm.
as an example. Like, so that's kind of where the conversation ends. Whereas when you're in a relationship with another entrepreneur, there are things that you can play off of and mastermind around. So that's what I would say is the positive aspect of being able to see eye to eye, ear to ear when it comes to how you both perceive the value of your life philosophy. Do you see what I'm saying? Like how that
Absolutely.
kind of dynamic has to be synergized. It's like
Yeah.
magnets, right? It's like positive, negative, yin and yang.
Yeah, absolutely. Someone has to be okay with someone's leading. Someone has to be okay when someone's winning. Like I think you have because not, it kind of even flow of things and for Dan and I, so I run my companies, he run his own company. As long as
Mm,
we're like, okay, that's his expertise. And sometimes he would ask me for advice, but like I said, like, okay, I don't know anything about PR and media, so that's your thing. I'm just gonna advise you to what I know in business and strategy and deal on funding and people, so I can do that. But like I think the common problem, or I would say when you have two entrepreneurs, is that competition of who's winning, like that. Okay, maybe the type a person, whether it's male or female, don't want to be overshadowed by your partners. It needs to be blended in really nicely because that could cause friction. And at one point, I felt that because for some reason,
Right.
when I started the business the last 10 years in the beginning, and then used to work for a company, when we go to a mastermind, people assume I don't have a job. It was his
Ah,
business.
yeah,
And
they
that really,
that assumption, yeah.
that assumption,
That
and so
stereotype, right?
really is off. And
Does
so
that
it's like,
piss you off? Was that
yeah, it
Yeah,
used
yeah,
to.
I
Now
can hit,
I
I can
joke.
tell.
I joke about it now because I don't really care. But at that point,
Right,
I'm
right,
very
right, right.
sensitive. So then he was very conscious, like, oh, I want to let you know, I did not create the business. It was her because me being Asian, he's white, so automatic. There's some label and stereotype.
100%. Yeah,
And
100%.
so I would get angry at that before, but now I just joke about it. Like, but in the beginning, I would get very pissed off instead of pissed off of what the other person said or made a comment. I would get like the friction to my husband, even though it's not his fault. But I have to work that internally. Like, hey, it's not his fault. That's just a perception of other people. But I can't change that. But like, at this point, like, I don't care. It doesn't bother me anymore. But in the beginning, it really does.
I
It
hear
took
you.
me a while. Yeah, it
No,
took
yeah,
me a
for
while.
sure. I mean, not too long ago, women didn't have the same rights, and now we have complete equal rights, and that's amazing. And I think that this is a conversation that I'd love to maybe have with you at another time around how a lot of the culture has changed in the world about women. Honestly, they can make their own money now. Why they
Yeah.
don't necessarily need a man to like protect and provide. And so, like you see a lot of these single women who are they're often traveling in Bali and they're living the good life because they're self-reliant, self financially, and there's certain, let's just say, influences through the technology and the narratives, right, flying around on social media that basically essentially is telling people or telling women this narrative of like, well, there's no need to get married. Like, you don't need to have kids. And then the guys are hearing this other influence where guys are being consumed with content that is highly sexualized, if you can say that on social media. And so it's an interesting kind of separation. You even see this in the court systems where if people get into a fussle and they have kids, the kids are at the effect of that unhealthy, let's just say, this prioritization of the rights of the woman, which I'm fully women's rights, obviously, and female empowerment. And at the same time, I think that we're wanting to move into this world where men can have a role in that and feel safe with their masculinity and not feel shamed for their masculinity. And I think that that's that next level of rebalancing that equilibrium. So I think of it as like a seesaw, right? Like women were down here and then they made a shoot. They were like, psh, they catapulted up. And now that because of that slight overcorrection in a way, now we see a lot of demoralized men these days, whether they're in a relationship or not, and they're asking themselves, well, okay, if I can't be a protector provider, and I know that there's this new skill set of learning how to communicate with females that has nothing to do with how much money you make necessarily, has nothing to do with necessarily with what you look like, even though that's easy to believe. Like, just get the six pack ab and the seven-figure job, and you'll be Mr. Perfect for the girl. Like, some of these women don't care about that. You just got to be cool. You got to be fun. You got to have some swagger, right? So,
Yeah.
like, what men are in this interesting, let's just say, God pocket of uncertainty of like wanting to pass their genes along, maybe have kids, maybe have a family, but they're having a very more competitive experience of this because again, women are way less dependent on men than they used to be, and that's just a reality that we have to accept. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think, well, for women who's independent and wanting to travel and do what makes her feel good about herself, go for it. But I think with the rise of options and Tinder and technology, we tend to, I think that's why everyone's complaining about the dating world. I don't know what that looks like, but just from hearing from friends, like
100%.
the women are complaining about men and the other side. Like they said it's hard to find quality people, but I don't think that's the case. I think people just because they have so much option to just swipe to the left or the right, whatever that looks like, they are so easy to just give up into knowing the person and just keep on going instead of just keep on building into that might be the right plant to put some seeds, but everyone's so ADD and so distracted. So that's why they can't find the right person. They just go
Ah,
place to another. It's like, oh, I didn't like this person did this, but like knowing a person it really takes a lot of time and patience and cultivation and but we don't have that time because it's so fast and we have this option and I think that's the reason why people are having a hard time finding the right partner for themselves. I mean, we can't find the perfect partner, but one that you're willing to sacrifice, but it takes time to know a person. I mean,
yeah,
I
and
think
that's
that's why people are
crazy.
complaining about it. We just have so much options like, oh, I didn't like this X about this person, so I'm gonna move and date other things. You don't know. Maybe you get to know layers and layers of that person that might be the perfect person for you. But you just kind of give up because there's so many options. But back in the day, we don't have the technology where there's so many options with Tinder. We have the patience and oh, you know what? That's perfect person for me.
Yeah, and I will just say that I think that it's always been the case that women have had more options than guys just because of the way that we're designed as a species.
Hmm.
I think that there's women who, and this is just my opinion, the way that I see it with conversations that I had with friends of mine as well. That you're to your point, there's a lot of options, right? There's just an abundance, an overflow of optionality for both men and women. And I also see there's a like almost like a normalization of okay, if they don't check off all these chick criteria, then it's an instant X, which I respect that 100%. But the question becomes, okay, where is the Overton window? Meaning like where's the line as to the level of expectations that a woman would have for what she would like to be in a relationship with a guy when the reality is that most guys, I would say about 95%, if not more, they don't meet that criteria, Kate, for what these women are seeing on social media. Like if you open up the average phone book, IG of the average girl, like she wouldn't admit this, okay? But as far as I'm aware from having conversations with female friends, that's normal for them to just be having multiple conversations with guys, as guys should too, right? Like we both deserve to vet each other out. That's how it works. But it's interesting because the standard at which guys are expected to meet is very like the percentage of men that women are like, oh yeah, I could totally just get him to commit and have kids with him. It is so tiny that that's the pool of men that are kind of just look at nature, right? Like if you go out into nature and you see the way that deers behave or like lions behave, there's like one male for every seven females, and that goes against the societal conditioning, especially of many religions, of like, whoa, hold on a second. That's not how it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be one man, one woman, and that's the spiritual consciousness of what makes you not this animal that's this only driven by their primal desires. But it's interesting to see that a lot of these women are kind of competing for the same singular person. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, but like I'm maybe my friends are much older, so they're
Okay.
complaining about the same thing that they can't find, a
Ah.
good man. So,
Ah.
so the other side of things, it is a struggle, I think, because of social media. I think our wants are way more complicated. The way how we handle our wants and emotional stabilities change as so many distraction and options and uh, it just becoming so competitive in our head. But I don't know what is that like in the dating scene, but I could just imagine just analyzing what's going on Instagram and everywhere. I don't know. It's got to be. I sometimes joke about that to Dan. Like if I'm single right now, I don't think I could find someone else because if this is definitely a very difficult time to find a partner.
Yes. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, 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 100%. Yeah, thanks for sharing that because I always want to kind of hear from a woman, their perspective on how they see the world and their worldview. And it's interesting to hear your perspective since you've been in a relationship for quite some time, about the gratitude that you do have. For like, wow, thank God I don't have to deal with this like crazy level of distraction and shifting of priorities, let's just say, of people.
Mhm.
And it's just I just for me personally, it's a very interesting topic to talk about because I think that how many entrepreneurs do you know that secretly deep down they're really building this empire to find love?
Yeah, it was a lot. Actually, a lot of female, single, successful. I know that's having a hard time finding a partner.
Mm.
Because, lifestyle and needs, it's becoming more complicated. Maybe the guy can't feel good that she's more successful than he is.
Aha,
So
exactly, exactly. That's the issue. I think that's the nuance that people are that women are afraid of is like I don't want to hold myself down.
yeah, just to make
You
you feel good about
know,
yourself. Yeah, why not? You should be okay. I think some guys are okay, like, hey, it's okay, but like masculine, like some people it really bothers them. But I think, then you're
hmm
missing that might be a good person just because your ego got crushed because someone else worked harder or like it's all at the end of the day, life is about timing. You shouldn't I mean, judge people how successful they are because
hmm hmm
sometimes it's timing. You're just in the right time at the right place, and that's how you got it. But you should just be okay with that, and it's okay.
Yeah. Clarity. I think it's
Maybe
about clarity.
maybe our win is having a good partner or a good friendship or a good family. It shouldn't be just about money and success, right?
Mm. Do you think that do you think that if you were not an entrepreneur or your partner was not an entrepreneur, that would change things for you?
No, I don't think so. I like the way how it is for me. I don't see myself as not an entrepreneur. I mean, I cannot be a stay-at-home mom.
Yeah.
Right. So, but I think I'd be willing. I think I'm in the different stages of my life. I'm okay, but when I was younger, it's very different, right? I think when we're self-aware and know seeing in a different way how we wanting to live our life, maybe it will change. But looking back, I cannot be not be an entrepreneur. But if I have an option, but at that point, I have no way out. I have to be an entrepreneur. But I think sometimes it takes a lot of self development and work internally to be okay with whatever that is you wanting in life.
Right, right, right. Thank you for sharing. And then I have two more questions for you, and then I'm gonna let you go because I know you're busy. Uh, so the first question is, I remember you had said something about one of your zones of genius is to be able to essentially create this opportunity for people to fundraise, to buy into opportunities. Like how does that really like work from a very tactical level? Like do you just have to have a network or do you go to events? How do you secure that?
Okay, so I'm not saying I'm not very good at fundraising. I
It's
said it.
hard. Yeah, I heard it's very
No, it's
difficult.
really wrong. It's hard. I actually have bootstrap and finance all my businesses. I have not taken any money from outside.
That's what I heard.
I wish I have that gift. It's something that I need to work on, that it's okay for me to take other people's money, but for me, it's definitely might need to have some plant medicine work because I need to open up that mindset that it's okay to receive help from other people. I think for me, I have that fear like once this person will give the money, now I'm gonna be reporting to them. I don't know. I have that childhood things that I'm still bothered by. I don't want to report to someone else. And I think that's the reason why I don't want to take other people's money. But I
Mm,
know it's going to help me scale even bigger, better. But it's something that I have to work internally. Dan is okay taking other people's money. He's okay with it. He's okay.
right, right.
I have issues with it. So it's something that I have to work internally. I wish I had that gift to just be okay. But again, I have some friends that got funded at X amount of money and then they get kicked out from their own company. So I have this, should I do that if I am already comfortable how I live my life, then I'm okay that I don't have to report to someone else. Because for me, freedom is really what I wanted in life. And I have that freedom now. So why would I bother to not have that freedom again? So
Mhm.
that's my fear because I've seen the good and the great about getting funding from someone else, but I've heard some horror stories as well. So it's really hard to kind of navigate it.
Yeah, completely understand. And where everybody goes through challenges, everybody goes through uncertainties. But I feel that, like you said, timing is
Mm.
super powerful to stay, like you had said, to stay self-aware. So, and really that actually tail leads perfectly to the last question, which is, if you could go back in time and completely give the younger version of you a piece of advice that you wish the younger version of you would have known, which would maybe have saved you a lot of time, a lot of pain.
Mhm.
Um, in this journey of entrepreneurship, like, what do you think that would be?
I think for me, it's really not being hard on myself and do self-love. I'm just now working in that department of myself. I think I'm too harsh with myself. I don't really see as myself as I really have to take care of how I feel
Mm.
and being healthy and eating the right food and sleeping and not stressing a lot. I wish I have that balance early on, but I feel like it's still not too late to live a healthy life. It's really hard to live super healthy and run companies as well. Like I wish I mastered that, but I was definitely not nice to myself, lack of sleep, working
Mm.
13 hours a day, hustling, I mean, doing all the work and stressing out with a team. I mean, like, look, if you're an entrepreneur and scale too fast too soon, it's complex, it's complicated. So I wasn't really nice to myself in a way. Yes, it provided me the life I wanted, but it's so hard that balance. So now I'm working to myself of embracing the new wanting to be healthy and taking care of how I feel. And I think that balance, I wish I've done it early on, but I didn't.
Thank you so much for that share. So intimate, so just conscious, and your story is an inspiration to many people, both in the experienced, sophisticated market, but also people who are just getting started. And it's just a natural essence that you have. It's very powerful, because you relate with both women, but also you also relate with men too, and in such a way where like you make it very simple. Does that make sense? Is yes, of course you've learned how to do a lot of complex things, but I think you're very good at making these teachings relatable to people so that it's digestible. And that's one of the most challenging things to do as an expert is to not fly over people's heads. That's one of my weaknesses, obviously, is like I think that also comes from a fear of mine of like, oh shit, like if I take this person's money, then I have to justify what they paid with like overcompensation of blowing their mind with all the wisdom that I have to give when it's like, okay, where's the balance here? And
Yeah.
sometimes I've found that, especially working with high level clients, wealthy clients, the more you speak too much, you're actually hurting the dynamic. It's almost like you're hurting, and I think very energetic, emotional people in general tend to make that mistake. And I used to make that mistake. Was I didn't realize how busy these successful people were. They were making way more money than I was at the time.
Mhm.
As a hypnotherapist, that's what I was doing. I was helping people, executives at bigger companies, like eight, nine-figure companies, and I was just this little minion, this little hypnotherapist helping them with a lot of their internal stuff as well. So it's funny timing that you mentioned that. And I would like text them, and I'm like, okay, cool, like time for your session. I'm excited to connect, and like they wouldn't show up. Then I would text them to see if everything's okay. No,
Mhm.
no, like just ghost, complete ghost. And then a week would go by. Hey, we were gonna reschedule that. What's going on with this? And then like 3, 4 weeks go by. Finally, I hear text back from them like, "Oh yeah, my bad, bro." Like, yeah, sometimes I just don't get back to people in weeks or months. And my mind was shocked. I was like, my ego was like, that is so unprofessional. It's like, and like to me, my coach was telling me like, oh, they shouldn't get a reschedule or whatever, and like they don't even care, like because I think that a wealthy person, they're so busy that they can afford to lose that money. But it was just a very strange experience for me. Because if you're not on point, clear, and simple with your communication and just get to the freaking point, they get so frustrated because there's many texts that people will send. There are these paragraphs long, and it's like you could have easily said that in 8 words, but you chose to use 8 paragraphs. And I had to coach my clients who are newer in entrepreneurship. I was like, you don't need to add this emotional story as to how you came up with this question or this idea. Just like, tell me what you need directly.
Yeah.
And that was like a very hard lesson for me to learn.
Oh,
But it saves people a lot of time from
yeah.
over emotionalizing this. This is not appropriate for a business setting. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I think that's stuff. I mean, finding the balance of not taking it so personally and dealing with your clients that are so busy and sometimes they didn't really mean to, they're just busy. And so finding
Exactly.
thing and dance and sometimes, I cultivate this relationship that are really high up there and you have to be really okay and understanding because they will respond when the time is there. So
Yeah.
you got to be okay with that silence and don't take it personally. And it's so funny because I
Yeah.
used to think like that, like, oh, it's in a response. I don't know, there's something wrong with my text. No, it's okay.
Yeah.
See? Did,
Start
did I
getting
say something?
paranoid.
Yeah, you get paranoid. But then like
Ah, shit.
then all of a sudden I did not respond to all of her texts as a good friend of mine. And it's just like, hey, are you there? I want to hear your updates. Like, oh, so she's the same. So like, okay. So sometimes we just overthink, like
Yeah,
just let it
yeah, 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 yeah. So common, right? Yeah,
go.
yeah, yeah. We all afraid of the same stuff. It's ironic.
Yeah.
So, Kate, thank you so much. This has been such an incredible podcast. We covered so much territory today, and it has been such a pleasure to catch up with you. And I'm excited to just connect with you outside of this podcast to just share and to stay connected. But yeah, thank you again, for and where can people find your work and also get in contact with you if they want to find out more about your services or your projects.
Yeah, so you can just go to katehancock.com or I pay attention to my LinkedIn account. So
Mm.
yeah, but go to my website, everything is in there. So yeah, whatever that may be, I'm always open to collaboration. And hey, if I have a friend that I can meet in other parts of the world, I'm very open for a coffee or whatever that is.
Fantastic, Kate. This has been an episode of Frequency Leaders Podcast. This has been Kate Hancock sharing the gold and the gold mine of wisdom that she's got. And I hope you enjoyed that episode. Please share this and share it with your friends. And also follow Kate on Instagram. It's Kate, what is it? Your name? Kate Hancock?
Hancock, yeah.
Kate Hancock on Instagram.
Yeah.
And also tune in for the next episode. We will see you all very soon. I hope you enjoyed that podcast, and we'll see you all very soon.
Thank you. Thank you.
Peace.
Bye.